This is WFO Radio.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Another week of WFO Radio Podcast. I'm Joe Castello. Welcome. And everybody, hopefully you're rested and relaxed and you had a great time on Memorial Day weekend. Yes, a solemn holiday, but we do it in style and grilling and consuming and having fun and watching racing and all kinds of great stuff. We're going to have the voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, joining us just minutes from now. And I know he was up in the Maple Grove area, and it probably didn't go so well weather-wise. But, there was, depending on where you were, there were plenty of things to do. And if you happen to be at a drag race, that might have been a different story. Out there, the March meet, that went down. We'll talk about that. But general conversation, no Camping World Drag Racing this week. The next race is Epping, New Hampshire. I'm excited to be headed up that way. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Pretty cool stuff. I worked on my own projects here in sunny South Florida and got some things done. So I'm excited to talk a little bit about that. The Patreons already got their Tuesday motivation. But before we get to Alan, let's talk a little bit about the people who make it possible. You know, Total Seal Piston Rings, we talk about them on a regular basis. Hartford was on last week. And, winning down in Houston, a big, big deal. But the more we learn about ring seal and how important it is and how it reduces friction inside your engine, it's no wonder that so many top racers use Total Seal piston rings. Go to their website, totalseal.com. And what they always say on our Hidden Horsepower podcast, which multiple new episodes up, including John Callie's talking about the building of the Fiero pace car. That was just a unbelievable accomplishment by the aftermarket. They said, Pontiac was like, we want the Fiero to pace the Indy 500, and they were like, well, that's great, except it's not fast enough to pace the Indy 500. You can't go fast enough in the Fiero. And they're like, well, we need to build a new engine, new cylinder head, new something, make it fast enough, make it happen. And so John Callie's made it happen. How did he do it? By tasking the aftermarket and foundries, and he shared that story on Hidden Horsepower. Really great stuff in association with the Indy 500. But really, it's all a method to teach you, if you're building an engine, you should use Total Seal. Simple as that, right? Long story to a short answer. Use Total Seal. Also, samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Start your education at full speed. Like, where are the next generation of machinists and engine builders and crew members and CNC programmers and motorsport EFI tuners? Where are they coming from? And the answer is samtech.edu. If you're a relatively young person, if you're a military veteran, they are approved to train veterans under the GI Bill. If you're thinking about, like, what is my career? What do I want to do for the rest of my life? What do I love? Working with cars, working around cars. Look at those of us that do it as a hobby. Amazing stuff. You can get ahead at samtech.edu. Check out their website. And if you go there, by all means, tell them you heard about it on WFO Radio. Marvin Rodak. Yes, the holiday weekend, it was full of fun and consumption, and Rodak's was a big part of it, right? Getting the day started off right. Little Marvin Rodak's Coffee. Rodak's Coffee and Grills.com, 817-924-6821. One of the best things that I see out there on the social is every once in a while, a WFO listener will buy some Rodak's coffee or hot sauce or spice rub or grill or whatever. He sells a lot of stuff over there in Fort Worth, Texas. And they post it on their social media. And I have not seen the one just yet where it's like, Then again, if they're posting on the social media, they probably like it. You should try it out. 817-924-6821. That's Marvin's Rodak. Marvin's Rodak. How about that? And Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, the Dragster Adventure. They go around the country enabling you, a lowly you, to drive a dragster, showing up with nothing but the clothes on your back and leaving with an experience that will last a lifetime. Driving a dragster, maybe even participating in a race. How cool is that? FrankHawley.com. Tell them you heard about it on WFO Radio. Plus our great friends at Nitrofish and the WFO store on our website, where you can bet that you're going to find some great WFO gear. Oh, everybody's on there and out there, and they're all saying hi, but we're going to go right to Wild West Engineering down there in Tucson, Arizona, for the voice of the NHRA, Mr. Alan Reinhart. There he is. I like the Alan walk into the shot thing, so I've been trying to time that one out. No, I got it. I felt like I got it. And Alan Reinhart. Dun, 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 dun. There it is. That's my Chariots of Fire. What's up, Alan? How are you?
Sorry, I was watching $6 Million Man this morning.
We could rebuild him. How was it? $6 Million Man. Does it hold up to the test of time? Is it still a good show?
They saved the world. They saved the world. It was unbelievable.
Oh.
I was so worried and the suspense and the drama, but it was just Steve Austin. I mean, I saved the world again.
Some shows don't hold up well to the test of time, and others do. Like I was watching an episode of Friends on the plane. I thought, let me watch this and see if it's still funny. And I was like, I don't know. I don't like it as much as I used to like it when I was a kid coming up, not a kid, but Seinfeld, on the other hand, I still think it's funny. So it all depends on the show. Like Three's Company, still funny to me.
Brian's actually got a thing on his website. I don't know if you saw it or not, but there is a 5.5-minute compilation or something of every big jump that they ever made with the pickup in Fall Guy.
Okay. Excellent.
And he also tells the story about, when they started doing the show, they literally were just buying trucks from GMC. And then they were wrecking so many of them. It's like, okay, we got to come up with a better deal. So they modified a couple of them to be the jump trucks that they would be able to use over and over. And if you look at it real close, I mean, the engine's actually in the middle of the truck. That's the way they get it to fly straight. But if you look at some of those huge jumps, you'll see the thing like flying through the air, and under the cab, you can see the oil pan and stuff that's hanging down there. But anyway,
I'll check that out.
80s TV, so.
I love the 80s TV. I love the set. It was all about jumping cars, man. It was all about jumping, Smokey and the Bandit, Frog. She's like, she wants to jump a house. And then, Bert's like, jump me. That was a big deal back then, jumping cars. And now with CGI, it's all fake. We need to jump real cars back in 2021, I think, is what we need to do.
Just not 69 Dodge Chargers, because how many did they ruin?
A lot. Just like Smokey and the Bandit, they had a bunch of good 78 Trans Ams that are now destroyed. So that's
but at that point they were new. They weren't like going to buy old classic cars and wrecking them. It's like, you can always get more new cars. That's easy.
Yes.
But anyway. So
all right. So everybody's checking in. They're all saying what's up. Alan Miller is out there. Monica is out there. Sorry about the weather in PA this past weekend, Alan. Total bummer. So Monica, one of our Patreons, taking responsibility for the weather up there, what you had to endure. What did you have to endure?
Well, if I'd have known it was Monica's fault, I could have been throwing stuff at her or something. It was just a miserable weekend. I flew in on Thursday. Weather wasn't bad on Thursday, but the forecast for Friday and Saturday was kind of iffy. We got there Friday, started. Didn't even make it through one full rotation. Never got the alcohol cars on the racetrack, and it started raining. And it wasn't like, Armageddon. It wasn't like a biblical rain. It just steady and wet and cold. And so we pulled the plug on Friday, and it's like, okay, well, we'll come back, see what happens on Saturday. Sunday, at least the forecast was pretty good. And we had Monday for the rain date, obviously. So everybody felt like, well, we're going to get this in at some point. Then it rained all day Saturday, never did a burnout. Fortunately, I guess that gave us time to watch the Indy 500 and the Coke 600. I did, by the way, find out why they didn't run Monaco on Memorial Day this weekend, but there was actually a reason for that. And then Sunday's forecast, just, all going into the week, Sunday was going to be fine, and then Sunday's forecast turned to crap, and we never did anything on Sunday either. And so that left us with, as I said, watching the Indy 500 and the Coke 600. And then Monday, the track the rubber was peeling up. And I felt so bad for Dave and the guys because, they get it, right? We're at Maple Grove, and you've been there. When it rains, it's pretty common for the first couple hundred feet of the track to peel up, and you've got to redo all of that to go racing again. And so they did that. I believe it was Saturday night when, like I said, it wasn't pouring. It was just kind of drizzly and cold and miserable. So they scraped the first 300 feet of the racetrack going, okay, what we'll have to do, we'll come in, we'll rosin, we'll drag, we'll be ready to go, but we're getting out in front of it here. And then it rained all day Sunday. And then Monday, when they came in and started prepping the track, the 300 feet they scraped, prepped pretty well, but it started peeling rubber out in the middle. And even though it was, 65 degrees and sunny skies and looked like this is finally, right? We waited out, we finally got our day. After they'd worked on the track for a couple hours, Dave came in and he said, look, the only way to fix this is going to be to basically scrape it from 300 feet to 1,000, which is going to take 6 or 7 hours. And at that point, what? So he pulled the plug on it. And I hated it for Dave, and especially for everybody, made the trip and came out and wanted to do something. And then it just wasn't possible. But, he said point blank, he said, I don't feel like I can give my racers a safe racetrack. I don't feel like I can give them an equal racetrack. It's the first event of the year, and to go in basically, some of the classes were going in either blind or with one time run to round number one. He's like, this just isn't the right way to do it. So painful decision, but I think it was the right one. Fortunately, I was able to change my flight and get home last night. And then, of course, there's bad weather in Dallas, so I got home 3.5 hours late. I'm here. And
Yikes. Talking about Dave
glamorous
Moon, by
life
the
on
way.
the road you always hear about.
Yes, division director Dave Moon, but at least he gave it the best effort possible. And I see it's been rescheduled for what, August?
Yeah, 28th and 29th, I think is what it is. I'm not even sure when that weekend is. I could look here. Wait, I can look.
He's going to go look.
I can walk back in again.
Safety has to be the priority. Probably a good call, says Chuck. Absolutely. And the experience. Another part of it is that a half-hearted experience, like what we just said. Yeah, everybody line up first round and let's eliminate and go. You still have a winner, but boy, that's a tough deal after a couple of days of rain.
Yeah, that's the weekend between Brainerd and Indy. So I don't know. Maybe I'll be able to go back and finish up the event. We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, it's just, if you're 5 races into the year, you're at a double divisional, you're something, you lose a day of, okay, right, it's part of it. But first race of the year, how many guys are out there that have, either a new engine combination or they got a new converter, they got, they're coming out wanting to make a couple of runs, and there was an available test and tune on Thursday that some did take advantage of. But there was not a good decision to be made, and Dave made the best one he could with the cards he had. So.
Yeah, well, that's why, very experienced guy. He's been down the road. Ultimately, you make the decisions. I was having a conversation just yesterday about like NHRA and some people, just incessantly bash, not NHRA, but everything, always, everyone. Anybody that has to make a decision is going to be bashed by someone no matter what, whether it's the right decision or the wrong decision. But ultimately, like, where is the heart at? Like, what is the thought process? Like, always to make the best decisions, the best decision possible given the circumstance is it. And so if Dave makes the call, he makes the call. And I think it's probably a good call in this case. We'll get good weather down the road at some point somewhere and we'll go forward. But yeah, first race of the year to have it to be like some weird truncated problem, probably better to pull the plug. And that's it.
Yeah, that was really, at the time, that was really the only decision that could be made. So, this weekend we're off, and that's, a lot of people are like, well, they're already there. Everybody could just hang out.
We just lost you. Your thing happened. It's been a while. Your thing, it happened. You got to reset. There he is. One moment, please, says Alan. What's up, Lauren? How are you out there? Tom says, what's up from Jonesville, South Carolina? What's up, Top? This is Denise, Mr. Swag JC. I don't even know it's you, but I know it's you. Let's see. Is Alan back? He's like frozen. Now I just kicked him out. So he has to go back through. Yeah, a bit of a bummer, but what are you going to do? We had beautiful weather here in sunny South Florida. Too bad we don't have a drag strip, right? No, we got some stuff. For those of you who questioned me about the Ignition show, thank you very much for your interest in the Ignition podcast. For those of you out there watching, Ignition is audio only. We need you getting that podcast feed, so we put Ignition only on that. Plus, I don't want you seeing me while I do it because it's like, ooh, bad news. All right, he's back, baby. He's back. What's up, Alan?
My stupid do not disturb.
We had a good run, like 3 shows in a row where it hadn't happened. I had begun to listen.
It's annoying.
Yeah,
it's even more annoying that the caller ID said telemarketer.
Oh, no.
Anybody running for public office, if your platform is, I will firebomb telemarketers, you will have my vote.
Yeah,
I agree with the rest of your platform is, you will have my vote.
So what is the worst one you get? Is it the auto insurance deal? Like your car's your car's manufacturer's warranty is ready to expire and we need you to sign on?
I get that one pretty regularly. I get, people that want to buy my house. I haven't got a we can save you money or any mortgage in a while, but it's just, I don't care what it is. If I wanted it, I would be calling you. So.
Exactly. Well, you know what? Actually, here in Florida, and I don't know the specifics of this, so it's going to be a little conjecture, but we had a thing where they had pretty much put the brakes on that. That it, like they didn't make it illegal, but they made some hurdles and you couldn't do it. And the robocalls had pretty much stopped. And then a couple of governors ago, in the interest of the economy and business, it was a pro business. See, it all depends on how you look at it. What are you against business, Alan? You don't want businesses being able to reach out for new customers? Come on, Alan. You're supposed to be pro business, except they're calling you at home incessantly all the time from blocked numbers or numbers in your area code. And anyway, we've never had more robocalls than we have now.
I'm all for business. If you want to advertise, buy a spot on WFO radio, and we'll tell everybody how wonderful you are. And if they want to extend their car warranty or if they want to sell their house, they will call you.
Exactly. Exactamundo. It's funny how some don't see it that way. I see it that way, and the robocalls are terrible. Hey, Michael Heiner finally back out there says, "What's up, fellas?" And Roger Richards, PDRA is modified but complete event at New York at Norwalk, so they got it in. And also out there, the Bakersfield March meet that happened at the end of May. Bobby Cantrell, Dan Horan Jr., Eric Gates, and Jeremy Hanger win in at the March meet. But that's a historic event. I've never been. I've got to go. This year was not the year for me to go, but maybe in the future.
Yeah, I think they're going to have it again, so you'll still have your chance. I understand Johnny West went to final with his altered. I thought that was pretty cool. And Johnny literally built that thing in his garage. He's a guy that's been building and fabricating and doing stuff for about 1 million years. So when he decided, you know what, I think it's time to get another one of these, he just got out his literally I-beam jig, old school as you can get, and started clamping fixtures together and started welding tubing together. So that's pretty cool that he made it to the final out there. That's
amazing stuff. The side projects of drag racers, right? Like you think about Richard Hartman and that the deal that became how big a deal. And you mentioned Johnny West, like, boy, he's got a lot going on. I think, he's helps with various cars overseeing, et cetera. We'll throw together a thing and gets behind the wheel and drives to the final. Like, wow, that is amazing stuff. So we just solicited some questions from people out there. Look, Spider-Man McBride is out there recovering from knee surgery. What's better than watching WFO? What's up, Spider-Man? How are you? That's good stuff.
Spider-Man's bad knee, really?
Yeah.
Be all those years of swinging from building to building, or
exactly that could possibly be. You'd think that would be tougher on maybe your shoulders, but this is a sad one to report. But this gentleman wants to know if there's been any news on the Seattle race yet.
The Seattle race was canceled, not postponed, not rescheduled. The announcement was that it was canceled. So. The Camping World Series will not be going to Seattle this year. I believe the track is still operating. I think the go-kart track is still going. I think they're still doing some bracket racing stuff. But the NHRA National Tour will not be going to Seattle this year.
That is a bummer. But we will be going to Pomona that same weekend. The tour will. And so there will be a modified Western swing, Denver, Sonoma, Pomona, which has not happened in a year of historic firsts where the Gator Nationals kicked off the season. And Gavin has one kind of interesting out of nowhere, but why not, right? What would be your thoughts to adding Gainesville to the countdown? Like a Gainesville or the Gainesville? Like, I don't know. A Gainesville is something that I've always wondered, like, could Gainesville handle two races as far as attendance wise, interest wise, bring in the people the way they do for the Gator Nationals? Yeah, maybe it wouldn't be exactly as big as the Gator Nationals, but could it handle it? And my opinion is, yeah, I think it could, but maybe I'm wrong. So what do you think about what Gavin is saying? Is flipping the script and the schedule?
I think there's a possibility that, a second Gainesville race could happen, especially now that we don't have Atlanta anymore. So, Gainesville, Atlanta, not that far apart. I don't know if you could run them that close together, go to Gainesville, go, and then come back in 5 weeks or whatever it is, run to Gainesville again. And then I think another thing would be what else is going on in the community down there, because Gainesville is a really fun town. But when you're talking like hotel rooms and logistics and that kind of thing, you certainly wouldn't want to be there on top of somebody else's event, just simply because of the number of rooms that are available, the number of rental cars that are available, and that kind of thing. So could it happen? Sure. Would it be a matter of trying to figure out when and how and work it into the schedule? That would be the ticket right there.
Exactly. And me, I've been talking a little bit about the rumors that I'm hearing surrounding various racetracks. And there's always rumors about racetracks going away. But right now, with the way real estate is and property values are, a lot of those are, kind of bubbling up at the point. So we've got to save racetracks, baby. We got to save racetracks and make each one that exists as valuable as possible. You got drag racers talking about you. Corey Savoy says, set that sucker to do not disturb, Alan, if you're an iPhone guy. And Michael Heiner says, come on, Corey, he's on Android. # old guy.
Yeah, well, it is on do not disturb, and I don't know why it doesn't work, but it annoys the snot out of me. When I find the guy who did the app do not disturb for Android, I'm going to kick him right in the shin.
Exactly. Well, we could probably find that guy if we wanted.
Is it Derek? Heiner, was it your boss? Oh no, he's an iPhone guy, isn't
Yeah, Heiner's an iPhone guy.
he?
Exactly.
No, not Heiner. Derek Kramer. Derek Kramer does iPhone apps. But yeah, not iPhone.
He probably does Android apps as well.
Well, then maybe it's him.
It could very well be. Paul Dagrapon out there. First time I've seen him on there. Two best voices of the NHRA. Two of the best voices of the NHRA. That is great. Thank you, Paul. Welcome. And let's see. Michael, it's even easier on an Android. Just swipe down. Yeah, we've done that, Corey. Come on, man. This guy has gotten coached up from everybody out there in the WFO universe. This is...
I know how to turn it on. I don't know why it doesn't work.
the obvious thing. Have you tried starting it up? Yeah, we tried it. It's not starting.
Did you turn the key? Yes, I turned the key.
Oh, exactly. Blake from Ohio. We met down there in Atlanta at the final race. If you weren't an NHRA announcer, what other NHRA position would you like to hold? Oh, I know this one.
John Forces.
Oh, I figured you were going to say Czar.
Oh, well, yeah, Czar would be nice. Yeah, I could be Czar.
Yeah, but John Forces, you want to be John Force?
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, that would be cool.
But I want to go back. I want to go back and start over. Go back 40 years and start over. I don't want to be. I don't want to be John Force now. He's older than I am.
Right. Well, what an interesting movie. You think of all these movies where the people like switch bodies and personalities. There's been hundreds of them over the years. Big, remember, just a bunch of different movies where some unsuspecting person switches lives with John Force. Wow, that could be pretty crazy. I don't know if I want it, honestly, knowing what I know about John. I think
turn into an old Quantum Leap episode.
Exactly.
Just got Bakula looking in the mirror and going, "Oh boy."
Yes. Top Fuel says, my opinion, I don't think any racetrack should have two national events. Keep it special. I guess. I don't know. I like to make sure those traps. It all depends on the place. Like, I'd like the two in Vegas. I want to go to Vegas as often as is possible, right? We got the 4 wide and we got the playoff race. That's good. It all depends. It's got to make sense, though. It's got to make sense. Let's see. What else? Michael Heiner. What about getting Tulsa on the schedule? Well, who knows, man? Who knows? That's what the NHRA bigwigs are all about. These are things, though, that we don't have the power to juice up because we're down the chain a little bit. But I'm under the impression that we saw that article pretty recently, right? They're looking in all these different places, and Miami was even quoted, right? Like Miami is quoted, and I live in Miami, and I'm like, okay, I don't know where, but it would be great.
The conversation with Tulsa took place and then kind of stopped. But, Tulsa would be a good market. I actually raced there back in the old AHRA days. But the racetrack, the improvements that would need to be made, some of the other stuff to get it to a national event standard, I think was kind of the stopping point. I don't think that they're against it at all. I think the guys at Tulsa would love to do it, but I think they're just not quite ready for it yet.
Some people suggesting the Camping World Series has too many races. I just so disagree with that. I know that's been a Bobby Bennett thing for many, many years. I just don't agree with it. I think that you have your number of races and your value. And when you cut races, you cut value. You make things smaller. You decrease the amount of eyes. You decrease the amount of people. You decrease everything. The scope is smaller. Like, why would anybody want to do that? Like, I haven't heard of a sports league. Like, let's get rid of some teams, even the crappy ones. Let's get rid of them. Now, they never do that. Whatever. It's been discussed and they never really do that. Contract. I think contraction is bad. I think you got to figure out what you got and you got to make it worthwhile to go. And whether it be expanding the tracks or coming up with a different style race or something, I think they've done that. I've just always been very much against contraction.
Well, it's an interesting discussion because, like I've had discussions with people and just, making up names here. Okay. Somebody says, well, let's just get rid of the race in Kalamazoo because it's not as big as Indy and it's not as big as Dallas. And, it's a small market and it's a small crowd. So let's just get rid of the race in Kalamazoo.
Right.
Okay. So what do you tell all the race fans in Kalamazoo? That if you still want to be an NHRA race fan, that now you've got to drive 6 hours or 8 hours or 10 hours to get to a local race. What do you tell the racers in that part of the country? The racers that maybe this is the one time a year that they get the chance to come out and race for a big wallet. Same thing. Now you've got to increase your investment when these are the people that, follow around, run your division races and are supporting you on your smaller racetracks and your smaller series and helping keep them in business. So you tell them now, well, we just don't care about you anymore. And then you end up with, what does Don Schumacher tell Napa? Okay. When he's got a sponsor agreement in place where Napa pays him, whatever the number is, Napa pays him $10 a race. We run 24 races. Okay. That's $240 worth of income he's got. Now we're not going to race Kalamazoo. Okay. We're not going to race Kalamazoo. So he now has to refund Napa for $10 because that's one race where they didn't get exposure. They were not on television. The rigs weren't driving up and down the road getting exposure. And believe me, all of that stuff counts. Ron didn't have a chance to go to Kalamazoo and visit one of the Napa stores or, two of the Napa stores or whatever he would have done up there in that market anyway. So all of that stuff now is lost. But the Napa guys all still have to be paid for that week with no income. And I mean, no income from Napa, which obviously includes, Dodge and the tool companies and Pennzoil and everybody else, right? All of your sponsorship is going to get cut back by that. And you still have to pay everybody. So your payroll hasn't changed a bit. Your intake hasn't changed. Your income has changed considerably. So how do you make all of that work out? And there's so much more that goes into that equation. And yeah, I've heard for years that, well, if there was only 10 races, there'd be special. Okay, you're right. Do you think Don Schumacher can keep 160 people employed running 10 races a year? From his fab shop to his marketing people, to his media people, to, even the person that answers the phone in the office. If there's only 10 races a year, can he justify keeping all of those people employed? And then what? Is everybody now a part-time employee? So, okay, right. Crew chief is probably going to be on salary. You're going to pay him or her to make sure that they're there for you. But if you're paying your guys, whatever the number is, you're paying them $5 a week to come work on the car. Okay, well, when they're not racing right now, they're driving back and forth to the races, they're servicing their stuff, they're building new cars, they're working on whatever, they're testing here, you're not going to have any of that anymore, or not nearly as much. So what are you going to do now? Are you just going to hire those guys part-time? And then when those guys go, hey, look, I love racing, I'm passionate about racing, it's important to me, but I can't make a living if I'm only working 10 weeks a year part-time.
Exactly.
So, okay, I got a job over here to go to work for, ABC Manufacturing. I got house payments to make. I got kids to, get through college. I got all these expenses and stuff. I can't make it on a part-time job. And ABC Manufacturing is not going to let me take off 10 weeks a year. If maybe I can schedule my vacation to go to a race or two. And so all of that stuff kind of factors in because this industry has been built. And there was a time when they used to do that. I mean, it was a regular thing as recently as probably 20 years ago, which to some people sounds like forever, but it really isn't that long ago, when after the World Finals, the drive back to the shop, they'd get parked, and everybody got laid off. It's like, okay, well, you're off for, and back then the World Finals would have been about Halloween. So you got laid off. You had no job for November, December, January. First week of February, they'd call and go, hey, you're looking for a job? You want to come back to work? And you come back to work and go racing again. But that's the way it was. And the industry has now built itself into the point where you need full-time people because of the amount of times you're running these cars. And that's advertising you can sell. I spoke to Chris Blair. It's like something nobody thinks about, right? I spoke to Chris Blair last year when we were going to St. Louis, and I think he was allowed 25% capacity or something like that. And, Chris and I have known each other for a long time, and we've got a pretty good relationship. And I said, does this really make financial sense? And he said, yes. I said, are you going to make money? And he said, oh, absolutely not. He said, but we have a title right sponsor for the racetrack. We have Worldwide Technology Raceway. Worldwide Technologies pays us for the Worldwide Technology Raceway. Part of that contract is we have this race on TV, we have this race on TV, we have this event on TV, we have this. That's part of the contract. So if we don't have the NHRA national event broadcast on FS1, or I believe it was on Fox Network, if we don't have that event, I have to return a huge chunk of money to Worldwide Technologies because I didn't fulfill my contract. And he said, if a guy comes into your office and says, okay, here's your two choices. And again, whatever the numbers are, right? You can put the decimal points, but here's your two choices. You can either lose $500 or you can lose $200. That's your two choices. Pick one, because there isn't a seat. And so at that point, it's like, well, I'd rather lose $200 than lose $500. So we're going to have the race, even though as soon as you say yes, you are going to lose money. but it still makes financial sense in the big picture. And that's another thing that, that you have to think of. There's a lot of also the smaller tracks out there, my Kalamazoo track, that the national event basically keeps them going for the year. Okay. They'll have a few other events. Maybe they'll have, a jet car thing, or maybe they'll have a, wheel stander thing, or booked in something. They'll have a car show. They'll have a swap meet. They'll have other events that make money. But the Nationals is their biggest single source of income, their biggest weekend source of income for the season. And when you tell them, well, yeah, you're not going to have that anymore, then you're really putting the smaller racetracks in peril. If you're talking about taking a race away from Bruton Smith, okay, Marcus probably didn't have to sell anything to make it work. But some of the other tracks would, and some of this stuff, it's part of their livelihood. And there's a lot of responsibility there, I spoke to Don Schumacher a couple of times last year, and he said one of the biggest things that he had weighing on him was all of these people that depend on me for income, right? To feed their families, to make their house payments, that I need to try to keep to work. When NHRA went back to work last year, even, when we ran all the races in Indy, and when we were running limited capacity doing stuff, it's because we needed to do what we could to keep the teams in business. When you think it, and it boggles the mind to think about how much sponsor money had to be returned to the sponsors last year because they paid for 24 races. We only ran 11. And it's not anybody's fault, and that I can certainly point a finger at, but it's just part of the business. And if you cut back the races, then you're cutting back everybody's income. And there's just way more to it than going, we just won't go to Kalamazoo. Nobody will notice. It's a small market anyway.
Well, exactly. And Top Fuel 173 brought this up. And of course, every question, this is good to entertain, but I just don't think it's the right move. If you cut races, you can increase payout per event and make it, assuming that happens. But where does that payout come from? It comes from Camping World money. Why are they going to give you the same money?
Tell me where the money comes from.
Right. Where does it come from? It comes from someone who has purchased X amount, and you're like, no, you're not going to get X anymore. What you're going to do is you're going to pay more for each, and now you're going to get X minus 5, and it's going to be great. And they're like, no, we're not going to do that. They would never do that. And that's the thing. It's a business. Behind the veneer of fun and excitement, it's a business, and that's the only way it'll operate, where people can have actual jobs. Everyone, like in Snake's book, it was a hobby. They were having fun. They were match racing. They were definitely making money. But how many people in the book were not being paid? They were volunteers. They would pick up somebody on the side of the road that could turn a wrench or wash something. Like, that's not a real business. Do we want to go back to that? Would that be safe? Was that safe? We're much better off now than we were then. The better strategy would be to try to grow. And look at Joe Lee Stanfield. We have double divisionals. Let's do double nationals. There's an idea to expand and not increase travel costs. Like, maybe that's the idea. They're doing it in IndyCar. They're doing it in a couple places. I think NASCAR and Pocono. Figure out how to increase without increasing costs.
And that's what we did last year when we ran the 4 races or 5 races or whatever it was in Indy, was going to the same track with a much scaled back event where the vast majority of the Nitro teams are all there. And even a number of the pro stock teams basically found a temporary home so they could leave their stuff. They didn't necessarily have to drive back to North Carolina or drive back to Oklahoma. But there was a way to do this to decrease the cost on everybody. And that certainly is something that's worth looking at. But you can't just run 20 races in Indy and never go to Kalamazoo, or never go to Gainesville, or never go to Dallas, or never go to, wherever it is. And, I love the fact that, everybody thinks that, and again, wherever the zeros are in the equation doesn't matter. Okay. But let's say, just to make the numbers round, let's say there's 20 races and the Camping World sponsorship is $100. So $5 a race. Well, if there's only 10 races, we could then double the purse, because the sponsorship would then be $10 a race.
Right.
No, it wouldn't. If there's only 10 races, we'd have to give Marcus $50 back, because he is paying for the exposure of all of these different races in all of these different venues in all of these different places. And if we cut that back, he's not going to keep paying the same money. Just like, Napa's not going to keep paying the same money. Just like John Force said point blank last year. I sat down, I crunched the numbers with what I've got for payroll, with what I've got for insurance, with what I've got for overhead, with what my sponsors are paying me. I can't make this work. And John doesn't have another business to fall back on. Racing is where the vast majority of his income has and always did. You know, I thought it was awesome that Connie Coletta, when they weren't racing, offered all of the guys on the race team, if you guys still want to work, I can put you to work in my airplane business. You know, you'll be working on airplanes instead of working on race cars, or you'll be working in this, this shop instead of that shop, but you're not going to be unemployed because Connie has that option. And I think that's wonderful. And I don't know that all of them did, but the vast majority of his guys took him up on it. Just to keep busy, just to keep doing something, just to stay employed. And I think that's great. John doesn't have that. John can't go tell 80 guys in the shop, okay, can you all come over and clean my pool next week? And I'll just keep paying you the same thing that I'm doing. And so he sat down and made the business decision that I can't do this. It makes more sense to shut down for the year, make sure we've got everything in place so when we come back. And he went to the sponsors and said, look, I'm not going to be able to deliver the value for what you're paying me. I'm not going to be able to deliver what I promised you. Let's just hit pause. Don't pay me this year. Let's come back next year and let's make it all work. And he has been able to do that. So, it's just difficult. But the number of dollars that were returned last year because of races weren't run is staggering. And that's just part of the business model. The racers get paid to race, not to sit home. So if you cut the races down, they get paid less. And not just paid less because they didn't go, win the race or get, their second round or semifinal money. They get paid less because the sponsors don't pay them if they're not racing the car.
There's many layers to it. I understand how people would, look for a simple solution. And I think that is a simple solution, but ultimately when you cause more problems by doing that, I think you end up causing more problems by doing that. We've got a nice schedule. We got places. There are other things that are going to eliminate our races, as we have found recently with Atlanta, beyond cutting them out ourselves, right? Like we won't have to cut races ourselves the way our civilization is going right now. Drag strips and the property and the real estate and various challenges and problems, et cetera, are going to be the things that cut our schedule. We should be looking to find new places to be and race. And I think about Miami, Florida, which was referenced by Jeffrey in an article recently, I think on Auto Week, about we're looking in Miami. And I think about it and I think, oh, that would be great if it was true. Obviously, Formula One is coming here next year, real close to my house. And but I know that there's not a possibility for a drag strip there. But we have got like 3.5 million people. We have one of the best car cultures in the country, maybe even in the world, as indicated by the auto sales, convertibles, performance cars, Ferraris, etc., because we have beautiful weather and beautiful roads. NHRA is not here. It's not a thing here. It was once upon a time, but it went away. And you have millions of unserviced potential fans here. Like, that repeats itself over and over again. Like every track can't be in a rural area where you have to drive, 6 hours out there. Like even, Tulsa is being mentioned, that's great. But like we got to go where the people are. When you lose English Town and you lose, Miami, Hollywood and maybe PBIR and you lose all these places, drag racing is not touching these people anymore. Like you got to touch them somehow to keep them going. Chassis shops, engine shops, people who are connected to drag racing. You've got to keep that going. If those go away to a point, there will be a tipping point and the thing will become unviable. If you don't have enough places for people to race their new Challengers, like what's the point, man? I bought this awesome Challenger, except there's no place for me to go. I can't go anywhere. You know where they go, by the way, Alan.
Yeah, and then we end up getting a black eye over that. See, I think that potentially the wave of the future is going to be multi-use sports facilities. I think, hypothetically speaking, if I was going to go try to build a racetrack in the tri-state area, right, New York, New Jersey, up in that neighborhood, if that's what I'm looking at, right, there's obviously a tremendous market there. We had great fan support, Englishtown, for so many years until they basically got overrun by the neighbors and had other issues and decided the drag strip needed to close. They're still able to run some other events that don't make nearly as much noise, but that the drag strip had to go away. It just wasn't worth the headache anymore. So what if somebody puts together a proposal and takes it to the Meadowlands and says, look, guys, you've got the infrastructure, you've got the parking, you've got room. Would you entertain adding another sporting venue to your complex? Now, obviously, a completely different sport than what you run. However, It's a revenue generator, basically year round when it's not snowing. And we could potentially have a couple or three huge events in here a year, which is good for the complex and good for everybody. And would that keep it from getting overrun and getting run out of town if you're already in a footprint where you have loud events, you have a lot of traffic when you have your events, you have, the neighborhood knows and is used to you being there. Is that a possibility? I don't know. I think that it's worth the conversation. When I think Ron Capps was the first one that blasted out to Marcus after Atlanta. He said, "Hey, you got plenty of room down there at Atlanta Motor Speedway. What do you think?" I think that would be something that's worth having the conversation. Now, can you justify the financial outlay and, how long it's going to take to get a return on your investment? There's a whole lot of questions that need to be answered. But if you go into a place where the footprint is already some type of a sporting venue and build a drag strip, then I think you're adding value to whatever that venue is, and you're not necessarily starting from scratch as far as they said, just infrastructure, right? Parking lots, restrooms, everything else that you're going to need is going to be close enough that you can kind of make it all work. At least I hope. One of the reasons that ZMAX is as big as it is because it's a part of Charlotte Motor Speedway. Could you build that freestanding someplace? I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know. Las Vegas Motor Speedway, right across the street from the airbase. Ain't nobody ever going to come out there and go, "Well, I built a house and I didn't realize there was a racetrack and an airbase here." Well, right. Then you're an idiot. But they also have got, I don't know how many people know this, how many restrictions there are at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, simply because they're the flight plan of the Air Force Base across the street. I mean, you look at all of the SMI properties, condos in Charlotte. Why aren't there condos in Las Vegas? Would that be a place to have a condo? Right? Middle of the racetrack. So, race fan, if you're just coming to Vegas, you've got a place to stay. I mean, condos at Las Vegas. How long would it take to sell those out? But you can't build housing because it's in the flight path of Nellis Air Force Base. And so when they run events, Nellis adjusts their flight path. But you can't have people in there 24/7. It's a compromise that you make when you go out there and build the racetrack. But hopefully that is something that will allow the racetrack to continue to operate and not get overrun by urban sprawl.
Well, exactly. And as we have learned very well over this past year of, pandemic, that, local government, state government, federal government, it's a mesh that of layers upon layers and how they handle things like public health, et cetera. When it comes to building anything, they all have a say. There's plans that go out many years that we don't even get to know about or understand about. And so for a drag strip somewhere to be built now that's national event worthy, it's going to be a big challenge. I like your idea about mixed use properties. I think that those properties are, they're not trying to cut back the number of events that they have. That's for sure. Like, hey, at Homestead Miami Speedway, we got 250 events. Wouldn't it be great if we only had 198? So they'd be more special. That's not what it's about. It's about growing and becoming viable, and you have employees and allowing them to work and keep working. Michael Heiner referenced crew guys. They get paid. Well, at some point, the number that you get paid to be a crew guy is not going to be enough to pay for your lifestyle. And so you'll have to make a decision. Do I chase my dream or do I feed my family? And right now, that makes sense with 15 races or 13 races, or, everyone says 17. I don't know if it makes sense. To some people it will, to some people it won't. But bottom line, this comes up a lot. I don't think it's a good idea. Next question. And one of the questions was, since Marcus came on board, what kind of changes have you noticed within the NHRA since Marcus came on board with Camping World? Have there been any improvements in marketing and payouts, et cetera, and so on? The Marcus Lemonis factor, I don't know that we've seen it just yet. I'd love your take on it, but we're not back to full strength yet. Like, we're not back. Like, we're about to get back, but we're not back just yet. And I think those things are in the pipeline.
Yeah, I think it's too early to tell. I mean, when you look at the way, Marcus hasn't even been with us a year, and, got involved in the middle of the pandemic. And at that point, it was, okay, look, I want to help. I want to get involved. This is a property I think I can do some good with. But I don't think that Marcus was looking at this going, okay, well, this is going to be a 6-month deal, and that's that. As a matter of fact, he stated as much that, we had long-term plans for NHRA, and, we'll see. But I think once we get back up to full strength, I just think right now, because of, in the first place, nobody knew Coca-Cola was going to go away until they literally sent a registered letter to NHRA that went, "See ya."
Yes.
And then it's like, okay, now we got a real problem. Fortunately, Marcus and I've apparently been keeping his eye on us, or got word fairly quickly, and went, "This is something I think I can do something with." I love that. And again, I don't know how many people know the due diligence that he went through. Sending teams to the racetrack, not coming himself, but sending his people to the racetrack to talk to racers and talk to fans and see. And if they had come up with, well, these are the same people that go to NASCAR races, there's no new market here, there's nobody new I'm reaching, it wouldn't have made sense. But when they realized that drag racing fans, yes, there's certainly some crossover, but there is a entire separate community out here that wasn't being reached with any of his other motorsport programs. And now it makes sense for him to come in here. We're still starting with where we can go, what we can do, it hadn't even been a year yet. And the half of the year that was 2020. So I think that that question I'd have to ask me later, because I think you're going to see a lot coming up later. We just haven't had an opportunity to do stuff yet.
I agree. Incomplete as of this point. And again, there are races that I don't go to just yet, because depending on where we are, it all depends on what the circumstance is. But this past weekend, though, Alan, you mentioned you got to watch the Indy 500 and the Coke 600. I really feel that much of this is about feeling like the way people feel. And I know right in the heart of the pandemic, like the worst of the worst, where like 4,000 people were dying every day, there were people in our community that were like, "This is BS. Let's get out there, man. Let's do it. Who cares? It's all hoax." People were saying that, right? Well, now the numbers have come down dramatically, and you're starting to see what real being back looks like. And the Coke 600, right? They were almost sold out, if not sold out. Like, it was a great crowd, and seeing over 100,000, the largest single sporting event since 2019, I guess, at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And what a great race it was, and what a great outcome it was with Elio, a 4-time winner. Like, many people need to feel comfortable about a circumstance. Like, is it safe for me and my family to go? My elderly dad, should we go? Is now the right time? And the more you see that, the more the vaccination numbers go out, the more people realize that, yeah, now is the time. That's when we're going to see, I think, some really good growth in our sport. And I hope we're getting to that point.
Well, and I'll say the same thing that I've said since we started all this. I think, people need to take personal responsibility. If you don't feel comfortable, for whatever reason, if you don't feel comfortable going out and being in a situation where you're going to be around people, you're going to be in a crowd, you're going to be sitting that close to people, that's fine. I'm not going to tell anybody what they have to do. But if you do feel comfortable, especially, if you've been vaccinated, or if you maybe had a bout and now you're on the it won't bite me again list, then you feel comfortable going back out, then it's up to you, and I couldn't tell you right now that I am like wide open 100%. Anything I ever did before, I'm ready to go now. But I'm comfortable doing a whole lot more things than I was even 6 months ago, because of exactly what you said. Numbers coming down, things, vaccinations, this, that, and people paying more attention. But there are certainly things. If somebody came and said, I have a dear friend of mine in town that is a pretty wild party guy. I've known him for a long time, and he's still just a pretty wild party guy. And on a pretty regular basis, he'll send me a deal. "Hey, huge party at my house, bring your swimsuit, this weekend." And I go, "Yeah, there's not going to be 5 people there that I know." And because I know his parties, right? The house is full, the places, you got your red Solo cup. By the way, I have red Solo cups, just so you know.
You better.
So you have your red Solo cup, and you're going, excuse me. I'm not comfortable with that. And if people are and they want to go do that, that's wonderful. I'm not there yet. I'll probably get back there, but that's me making a decision based on my comfort level. And I think that's what everybody needs to do. If you look and see, okay, this event is going to be outside, bright sunny day, I'm okay with that. I'm not going to necessarily go sit in somebody's lap. And if it makes you feel better to wear your mask when you're sitting there in between people in the grandstands that you don't know or that aren't part of your group, that's fine. I don't know anybody that's going to shame you for that. I'm certainly not. And if you're not there yet, then that's fine. Watch whatever you want to watch on TV, and I hope you'll get to that level of comfort sooner rather than later. But it's completely up to you. It's your call.
Well, exactly. But hopefully, like, we get to that more people feel comfortable point, because that's what it takes to get success financially with these outdoor motorsports, et cetera. And it was good to see a couple of good events this weekend, and our events have been good. Obviously, Charlotte was really good. Gainesville, really good. Houston, unfortunately, the weather is what hit us right there, but we got it in. We'll see as the summer happens, this great reawakening of our civilization, and we're much better off than the rest of the world, certainly at this point, vaccination wise and health wise. And we'll see, like, the data, right? There's data that we can track, and the data is getting better all the time. All right, let's focus on, did you have any thoughts about the Coke 600 or Indy 500? The WFO bump has been something that has been discussed a lot. And, we don't really test it a lot. We do a lot of drag racing. Kyle Larson came on the show for the very first time on Thursday, for the very first time. It was an early morning show, 8:30 in the morning. Kyle Larson comes on because of Metro Tech, and based in North Carolina. Our great friend Mike from Mike Adams set it up, doing some work. He goes out there and wins the pole and wins the race, Alan. Like, come on, right? That's pretty good. WFO bump. He talked about Tony Stewart. He went out and hung with Tony, doing the Top Fuel thing in Charlotte. And it was a pretty cool deal. I have now caught up on 2 of the first 3. Tony Stewart drives a Top Fuel car. So I'm up to speed on that. But any thoughts on the Memorial Day action that wasn't drag racing?
I was really happy for Elio. I think the emotion he showed at the end when there were people there, right? If he'd have won that race last year, it still would have tied him with Foyt and with Unser and with Mears for 4. It would have been, but there's no way if he would have been that excited about it. Climbing out of the car in front of a great big empty grandstand and going.
Right.
And I thought that was awesome. I was heartbroken for Graham. I started watching IndyCar again simply because of Graham Rahal. When I was a kid, my dad always watched it and paid attention. And when I got so involved with drag racing, I kind of drifted away a little bit. But when Graham Rahal and Courtney got together, and that kind of went, okay, well, now I've got somebody that I know, somebody that I can root for. And so I was heartbroken for that, right? I mean, he's running in the top 10. Who knows what's going to happen the rest of the day? But, like, come on, really? I mean, a wheel? You spend all the time, all the money, all the year, and then just have something like that bite you.
Yes.
But I thought overall it was a pretty good race. I thought when it came down to the end and they were kind of dicing back and forth with like 14 laps to go or whatever it was, I'm literally sitting there watching it going, okay, we got one guy that's won this thing 3 times and raced in it 20 times, and the other guy's, 19 years old?
Yeah.
Guess how this is going to go? Yeah. I mean, I'm all for youth and enthusiasm, but after they pass each other back and forth about 3 times, I'm going, okay, Elio knows exactly what's going to happen here, and the other guy doesn't. And I think that's the way it played out. So for me, that was fun to watch. The Coke 600 is happy for Kyle Larson. I mean, happy for Rick Hendrick and all that he's done. But I like to see, there was plenty of action in the top 5, just not enough to run of the pack. I think I would have liked it better if there'd have been, if he hadn't led, what was it, 352 laps or 333 laps or something like that.
Nomination.
But, he put a whooping on him. And, I'm glad that he got a second chance, and I think that he's showing now that he learned from the mistake, and he is devoted to come back here and show everybody that he belongs here and wants to put all that behind him. So good for him. I don't know Kyle. I've met him I think twice, but I don't know him well, and he's always seemed to me like a pretty good guy and obviously immensely talented. I assume you saw Rick Hendrick compared him to Tim Richmond.
Yes.
I'm thinking if ever there's a okay. You're a young, hot shoe kid coming into. He reminds me of Tim Richmond. I don't know where you get a bigger compliment than that. I really don't.
Right. It's the party scene too, like Richmond. Legendary guy. No, it was a great weekend of racing. And Earl mentions a comment here exactly because Indy promotes the experience. NHRA does not promote like they used to, whether it's commercials, games, lunchboxes, etc. Only in my opinion, obviously the people at Indy weren't afraid to sit next to a stranger. No, they weren't. They were totally okay to sit next to a stranger outside in the wind, in the sun, in the bright sunlight. And that's the point, right? Like last year, I don't think that many would have. That's what it means to get so many people vaccinated. Regarding promotion, I feel like NHRA has made some appropriate changes. We got a game coming. We got shirts. We got Hot Wheels cars right now. Like right now, the NHRA promotional machine has ramped up considerably, and rightfully so. There was a challenge a while ago, but Earl, I have noticed a lot of stuff, T-shirts, gear, promoting NHRA in general, the Alex Laughlin and Jegs Hot Wheels cars that we're starting to see. You got to have those. You'd have monster trucks, but you'd have no NHRA. Why is that? What's the problem? What was going on? Why did they do that? They've kind of got that thing going in the right direction right now. And I'm actually pretty happy and positive about what we would call licensing.
Yeah, there's been a lot of effort going into that. Recently the whole line of like man cave stuff came out. If you wanted to NHRA sign or something to put up, that stuff is out there available again. So I think that's good. One more thing, just while I'm thinking about it, I told you about why Monaco wasn't run on Memorial Day this weekend. Do you know that story?
I just assumed it was pandemic related due to the Formula One schedule. What was the reason?
Monaco, from the beginning of time, runs on the fourth Sunday in May. This year, for the first time in 25 years, May had 5 Sundays.
Interesting.
Memorial Day is always the last Sunday. Monaco is always the fourth Sunday. They are always the same, except for the first time in 25 years. So Monaco stuck with their same fourth Sunday in May, and IndyCar and NASCAR are both stuck with their same Memorial Day.
Wow. Well, there you go. I did miss Formula One, but I watched it the previous week, so I got it in. No big deal. All right, let's talk about some of our drag racers here as we get ready to head to Epping, not this weekend, but the following weekend. And I'm looking at point standings and, seeing Leah sitting there 10th, Clay 9th, Justin Ashley 8th, Billy in 7th. Feeling really good about the top 10, as in they're all really good quality teams. No one has been yet able to rival the Capco team with Steve, and Antron is getting into the neighborhood. Brittany's got a fast car, but there's going to be some jockeying for position. Mike Salinas on the outside of the top 10. There's a countdown this year. This is something to start thinking about, like who's underperforming and who needs to get going in the right direction, and will they be able to?
Well, I think that's 3 different questions. I think you look at, Brittany's had a great car all year. She didn't drive it all last year. She seems like she's getting back in the groove. I expect to see her making it more of an impact. Leah last year finished, 3rd or 4th in the points? And she's had a spectacular car this year and 0 race day luck. I mean, she's just had weird, stupid, funky things jump up and bite her throughout the course of the year. I think if they can get that to stop, she's got a great race car. I expect her also to step up and be making some more noise. Mike Salinas, and when you got Alan Johnson, Brian Houston, and those guys, you could go reel off 3 or 4 in a row. The Capco boys right now are just doing what they're doing. I think Doug Coletta would tell you that they expected a little bit more, even though they went to the final round last week. I think they would tell you that they've expected a little bit more out of the car that they've got. Tim Wilkerson buying a new Top Fuel car I thought was kind of interesting. So I think it'll be fun. I don't think that he's going to be, countdown contender tomorrow, but I think that's interesting because that'll put another car out there, potentially on some weekends when we don't have the full field of 16. Then that'll put another car out there that I think is at least a very solid, viable, decent car to come out and, maybe stir up the pot a little bit.
Well, exactly. And hats off to Tim. There have been a few races where it's been 15 Top Fuel dragsters and they pay those positions back. And Tim's going to the races anyway, kind of doing the Del Worsham deal. Like, hey, with the moneymaker, like giving the opportunity for people to get their feet wet in Top Fuel is something that can help supplement the income out there also. And so hats off to Tim for doing that. He didn't have to do that. He could have stayed put with what he's doing, but they're going to try to expand. They didn't cut back. They expanded their team, and who knows, maybe they get another sponsorship and they get that car out there full time. Like, who knows what's possible? And hats off to Tim for making a move.
Yeah, I think, you look for opportunities, and if you're in a position to take advantage of an opportunity, take advantage of an opportunity. Pandemic or no, there's no such thing as a bad time to make a good business decision. And Tim looked at it and went, you know what? This is something that I think we can do. I think will enhance our program, and it's worth the investment. Then I think it's a good call.
Mark has one comment, and I want to know your opinion because I don't know that this is true. Torrances will continue to own Top Fuel as long as the money flows. Like, do you think that the Torrance dominance is directly related to finances? Because Connie Coletta seems to have a lot of money.
Well, it doesn't hurt.
I feel like if it was just money, that Conrad could probably hang tough. And Don's pretty good too. I mean, no disrespect to the Torrances and what they've built and amassed through hard work, but they're not the only ones out there with a lot of money.
No, and their plan, however, was different coming in than a lot of people, isn't it? They cycle parts through very quickly. They don't run used stuff on the car very much. They'll buy a set of cylinder heads and it's got a life cycle, and then they will sell it to somebody else. And, there's a line at the back door of Torrance trailer to buy their used parts, because their used parts are still very good, but
yes,
they just cycle them through. And I mean, that certainly helps. But I think right now, and we've seen this type of domination in the past from various teams. You've got a good combination. You've got a bunch of good guys that are all pulling the same direction, right? They all believe in what you're doing. They're all, they're not having any, bickering between teammates or between, crewmen or anything like that. And it's just all working for them right now. We've seen it before. Will it last forever? No. But do you ride the wave as long as it lasts? Absolutely. And right now, I haven't seen any chinks in their armor. They don't look like they're going to slow down and give anybody a chance. If somebody wants to come up and run with them, they're going to have to jump up and do it.
Yeah, they're in the middle of a historic run. They're chasing history, and they're loving, like, they got everything on track, right? Like with Baby Charlie, and you got Dominic back, and like all the tough stuff that happened in the past. Like, they're enjoying it. All right, one final question for you, Alan. Southern Racer X, who is a super gas racer out there, wants to know if we can get Richmond back on the schedule. Like, is that put to bed, or is that still possible from what you know?
The only thing I've heard is what they said officially, and that's postponed. At the time when we were going to be there, Virginia was not going to allow us to put a very high percentage of people in the place. Richmond, I love the facility. This isn't in any way a derogatory statement, but they do not have huge grandstands. If you're allowed to put 50% people in Charlotte, you can still sell a lot of tickets. If you're allowed to put 40 or 50 or whatever it was going to be in Richmond, that's not really a lot. So we need to be able to fill that place up, I think, to make it viable. And hopefully they'll be able to get that squared away. If the state opens up and the county and everybody feels comfortable with letting us put fans in there, then I think we'll find a place for it on the schedule. We got some great hardcore fans down.
Yes, exactly. And it would be great. Like, again, back to the whole the deal. You want to grow, you want to max out, you want to get us back to what we remember as normal in 2019 as is possible. Alan, great job. You got a shop cat back there, by the way. I've been watching every now and again the cat sneaking around. I don't know if anybody else has been noticing, but like, follow the cat around Alan's shop has been part of this broadcast here. I saw him walking like 10 minutes ago up the left side of the Mustang, and he's in there somewhere.
Usually if it's nap time, he's like laying on the Mustang. I put a sweatshirt on the trunk of the Mustang. That's his bed. So,
look at you, big softy, creating a home for a
I don't know where he is. He's probably wandering around here someplace.
I saw him, guys. Saw him head back. Alan, great job as usual. Thank you so much. Bummer you had to hang in the rain, but you were hanging with good people, and hopefully they brought that cool Chex Mix that they make.
Actually, no. You know what? I didn't have any of that all weekend, but. Oh, well, maybe it was just, too soggy to break out the Chex Mix. If anybody's got a question we didn't get to, fired at me, announcer at NHRA.com.
Excellent. Alan, thank you so much. Appreciate you. And we'll let you get back to it at Wild West Engineering, but thanks for taking the time on WFO.
You bet, Joe. I got to get my 68 Ford running. That's my project this week while I'm home.
All right. Talk to you later.
See ya.
Bye. There goes Alan Reinhart. Why do I keep making that mistake? Later, Alan. WFO. And there you go. Interesting discussion. A couple of points. Okay. Talk to the Patreons a little bit earlier today, because normally I do Monday motivation, and it's just basically like a 15-minute set the stage for what we're going to do on WFO this week. For instance, Robert Height tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern time. Going to have Robert. The Thursday slot is still open. I'm working on a couple of things that may be interesting to you folks out there. You should definitely follow on the social, either me, WFO Joe, or all of our WFO radio stuff, Instagram and Twitter. The best way to find out like what's up with the show, Twitter, we always put it out, and the website, you can definitely see what has happened. You might not see it live, but you see all the shows that have happened after the fact and our full archive. But Robert Hyde tomorrow. Robert's going to be on the road next week. We're going to try to connect with Torrance before Epping. Torrance wins so much, I like to space out his appearances. And so I think we're going to try to do a Torrance Facebook page takeover again, like he allowed us to do last year, which was super fun. And, Q&A with all his people, which is kind of cool. Lowers the WFO audience numbers, but that's not really what it's about. It's about, growing everybody. So it's kind of a cool thing. That's what we got. Thursday, I'm open to suggestion. I got a couple of things that I'm working on, though. And Stevie Ray, got to get Stevie Ray on there, right? After his big, trip to the drags. And, Lee Beard is on my list. Got to connect with Lee at some point. But we do have a bit of a crisis situation right now. There's a couple of things going on. Like whenever we do free conversation, like open phones, inevitably it goes in a couple of directions. And one of the directions is like, oh, why isn't drag racing as good as it used to be back in the day? Right. And we even had like Gavin's out there. What's up, Gavin? Thank you for this. What would get the fans back into NHRA like it was in the 1990s? And I was like, well, a time machine. Nothing is ever going to be what it was when it was new and fresh and exciting. You have to constantly reinvent. That's what you must do. You must reinvent and refresh things on a regular basis. And maybe the NHRA at a point in its history didn't do the best job of refreshing. But also, you got to remember that during the Winston time, you had a title sponsor with unlimited budget and nowhere to spend it. And so a lot of the things that we remember from our local tracks, Miami Hollywood Speedway, everything comes down to my personal experience, right? Like all politics is local. Like, what did you experience? Well, I can tell you that my local track was painted white and red, and it said Winston Drag Racing all over the place. And I felt that my local bracket racing and test and tune experiences were directly connected to what was happening on the national event level. And we were all one big thing, Winston Drag Racing, because they were spending tons of money to provide paint and to just put their logos everywhere that they could, because they were not allowed to put their logos in certain places. And then ultimately they were prevented from putting their logos even on our stuff, which, some people don't like the fact. I think about it as a product of history. Like, did they know? Did they not know? Were they selling sickness? Like, I don't know. I don't want to go there because I loved drag racing at the time and I wore the logo all the time, all the place. I got sent home from middle school for wearing a Winston Drag Racing jacket. And I fought big time, right? Like, no, man, this is Winston Drag Racing. It's got nothing to do with Winston cigarettes, except I was wrong, but I was a kid and I was fighting for what I liked, right? But now we're in a different deal. So it's very hard to compare anything to that very specific and unique situation where you had a title sponsor with unlimited funds. Remember Angel on the Gary Selzy Happy Hour show where she tells the story she wanted the lobster, and T. Wayne? This sticks in my mind. Like, there are some things that just stick right there. We have a lot of problems at the R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company, Angel, and money is not one of them. Get the lobster. So it's going to be very hard to reproduce that when you're dealing with sponsors that are looking at bottom line. And also, look how much advertising dollars has been taken off the table and put into social media. Like, back in the advertising day, you think about Mad Men, and I used to think about a career in advertising, right? I like all the movies that they would do. I think Secret of My Success was one, like ad agencies and all that. I was very interested in that. And so I keep track of it somewhat. When you wanted to sell a part or an oil or a product to a certain group of people, what did you do? Well, you went to what their hobbies were. Like, these people like tennis and these people like racing and these people like you had to kind of guess what they were, and you targeted them by where they were, like what they were doing, what sports they were supporting, that kind of stuff. Well, now a lot of that, like, psychological science has been filled by, we have 1 billion people in our databanks and we know everything that they like because they told us. And they like drag racing, and they like cars, and they like all of these different things, strawberry shortcake on Sunday. That's what they like. It's a really weird thing that they do, but they like it. And the person who's selling Sunday strawberry shortcakes, guess what? He knows just how to get to those people. So a lot of that budget has gone there. A lot of that money has gone there. You have to like the sport, man. You have to like cars. You have to like people competing. You have to like short attention span racing, like the Coke 600. Did I make it through? Kyle Larson was on the show, and I knew I could brag that he was on right before and take some credit for his victory. Totally falsely. It's just a joke. But still, I didn't make it through. I had some stints where I was not able to remain conscious. Short attention span racing, awesome classic cars, the fastest, most powerful cars in the world. You've got a generation of kids who maybe they don't feel it's necessary to get a driver's license. Maybe they don't feel it's necessary to leave their house. They could do everything with this. Like, you have this. It's just a totally different existence. So what you have to do is you have to do the best with what you've got. Are we doing bad? I think we're doing good, given the circumstance. But why did I start this? Well, because I think we're at a critical point. I think there's a couple of critical things, and the losing of tracks. If you listen to the Ignition show, you know that I've heard rumors circulating about my most local quarter-mile drag strip, Palm Beach International Raceway, a place that I work, the place that I won track championships at. I finished 11th overall at the 5-day bracket race, and it is very, very Miami Hollywood, most importantly, and Moroso Motorsports Park, second most importantly, formed the person I am, loving drag racing. Going out there and getting my butt whooped by many people over and over again, like dealing with losing and being a sportsman, all of these things, right, happen there. Rumors circulating to me, like, who knows how serious and correct they are, but that track's future may be short, a year, 2 years, who knows? How many tracks can we afford to lose? How many tracks can be gone before the sport is damaged irreparably? How long can we go? How many can we lose? That's I think a question. I feel like there's a tipping point. Like, listen, we love football, and football is great, but there's no more stadiums to play football. And so we can't sell tickets for people. We could play football in a parking lot, and maybe 500 people could surround those people and watch the highest level players play. And people will still be playing football in the backyards. Remember this game? I think it's starting to become crisis situation. Like, if anything is going to stop us, like, what's going to stop us? Well, rules, regulations are going to stop us. But before that, what's going to stop us? You don't have any place to do it, or any place anywhere reasonably close to anybody who wants to see it. Like Miami, Florida. We got a lot of people that would love to see NHRA drag racing. I can tell you, because I feel very connected to the zeitgeist where I live. I know what people think down here. I know what they like. They're a big event town. They like things that are over the top. They like things that are crazy and insane and amazing. And that's what NHRA drag racing is. We don't serve them. They're not served. We don't have a bracket track. We don't have anything. We got Fastlane Friday at Pit Road and Homestead Miami Speedway once or twice a month. We have Palm Beach International Raceway, which is really 2 hours from Miami. And that's our closest, even remotely, possibility. And now there's rumors that that's not even going to be around in a couple of years. How do you have English town? Like, look at that. The city that never sleeps, New York City, the most densely populated state, millions of people there. You're not servicing them. And what are we going to do? Like, get back to the 90s, this and that, shorten the schedule. None of that, I think, is DEFCON 1 type stuff. I think the DEFCON 1 type stuff is you got real estate property values that are so massive right now, post-pandemic, when people are realizing they got to buy up stuff and build giant houses or whatever they're choosing to do, or the big box stores, Amazon and Walmart, they got to be shipping because shipping out, everybody's buying everything through them. I think that is something that needs to be like ratcheted up onto the front page of our threat analysis. You don't have tracks. You don't have a sport. Simple as that. And all this one-off stuff like the duck races, that's great. They're great. The March meet, one-off. There's 2 races a year. Oh, man, and they're so well attended. Yeah, 2 races a year is not enough. It's a specialty thing. So I don't know. That's where my head is at, obviously. All right, put your comments in the comment section, final comments, and then we'll get to your comments about anything that I've said or Alan has said after I tell you about the people who support this show. These people believe in you, the WFO universe, Total Seal piston rings. They know that somebody out there is building a bracket engine or building a streetcar engine or wants to have 1,500 horsepower and go to the grocery store just to do it. And Total Seal can help you accomplish their goals. They have the absolute ragged edge technology. And what we've been learning on the podcast is that there are a lot of engine builders, and this is insane to me, but it actually makes sense because of human nature. When you do something and it works, you're very reticent to change that. You're not going to do that. Well, no, this is working, man. Yeah, this is working. These 3/16 rings, man, they've been great. And that there are engine builders out there and people building engines on a regular basis that don't quite understand that the technology has evolved so much that you do not have to give away any durability in order to gain a considerable horsepower advantage. That people are just using the same stuff, and as long as people are ordering them, they're making them, and they make them, but it's not the best thing. So call Total Seal first. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm building. What do you recommend? Keith Jones, Lake Speed. Hartford's not going to answer the phone, but you never know. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. Here's somebody who's doing a great job of doing exactly what we're saying, like showing people that there is beauty in what we do, and also it's amazing and fun and an awesome experience. Like, why do we do this? Why do we do this? Well, have you driven a dragster? Do you know what it's like? No, I got a Mustang. Yeah, there's another gear, brother. There's another gear. The feeling of the launch, the feeling of the car, engine behind the dragster. For $399, you can open up that new world, a new experience for you or your sales team or your best clients, right? Now, obviously, it would be a promotional cost. Go to frankhawley.com to find out more information and tell them you heard about it on WFO radio. More people drive a dragster, more people go down a racetrack, the healthier the sport of drag racing becomes. How much did we lean on our American automakers to build cool cars? You know, the Cavalier and the Cobalt and the Sunfire. And as much as there's so many of them in stock and super stock and all, and I get it, they're small and they're light, they were not capturing the imagination of the youth. They were not. And maybe all of those young people that grew up not interested in drag racing are not interested because there was nothing for them to be interested in. The Grand Am and the GXP and the Cobalt, and they're all front wheel drive and they all got like 167 horsepower. But boy, the economy, man, they got miles to the gallon, which they really didn't even. Maybe that was the problem. So we finally get the manufacturers to build Chargers and Challengers and Camaros and Mustangs and Superchargers and Drag Packs and Copos and all these great things. And got them. And guess what? Now kids are into it. They like it. They like it again. They're going crazy. Trust me, Fastlane Friday is insanity. I wish I could bring every one of you down there and show you all these people, first generation Americans, many of them who speak multiple languages. And what are they doing? They're tuning their Challenger and they're going out there beating on their Infinity, making 15 runs a night, twin turbocharged Infinities. It's an amazing experience. The diversity, like it shows you that the car culture is alive and well. You just have to have access. Oh, yeah, access. That's pretty hard. We need it, though. And Frank Hawley is giving you access in a way that most people don't. Samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology, same deal. Hey, how are we going to have drag racing if we got nobody to build the engines? Nobody who knows what they're doing on a machine. Nobody to be the crew chief, crew members, to be responsible out there. Program these CNC machines. You need people. You want a job? You're looking for a job? Hey, nobody wants to work at a job where they're not appreciated and that they're just like a task person. The widget, right? Laverne and Shirley on the beer line. And like, that's a job. This is a career. This is something where you're important and viable. And the day that you don't like something at your job, you'll be able to go somewhere else. You will have some power. Yeah, Reggie, you know, you've had me at the same pay for 4 years now. There's a shop down the street. I'm going to go there. Samtech.edu. And finally, Marvin Rodak. There's nothing societal related to this other than coffee is good. His coffee is good. And if you don't believe me, all you got to do is try it out. 817-924-6821. Rodax. Hit him up on the website. You can get all our stuff on the website. WFO hats going fast in the WFO store. Oh, I could be doing so much better a job of pushing these WFO hats. Side logo, get yourself a hat and be ready for the next event. Big thanks to Nitro Fish where you get the 10th anniversary t-shirt. We fixed the link on that. All right. And Patreons. If you want to join our VIP listener club and get all the behind the scenes stuff, we've had a couple of new. You can get a yearly membership, which is great. And you get Monday Motivation. You get to watch the Ignition show from behind the scenes and chime in. And as much extra stuff as I can come up with to make it worthwhile. Look, the kid in the red jacket, man. There's the Winston Drag Racing jacket, folks. I knew there was a reason. This is the 1986 Pro Stock Winner's Circle with Don Campanello. And that's me and my dad right behind me in our Winston Drag Racing jackets. That I wore that thing. I live in Florida. I wore that thing every day. Every day. I loved that jacket so much. Every day. And I got it in there. I'm walking around with a Winston cigarette jacket for a long time before they pinched me. Right? And then I had to, I couldn't wear it anymore. But passion. We were fired up about it and still am. I don't know if you saw my social post, but I found a bunch. I got to bring them in. Old school drag hats. I'm going crazy with them. All right, let's see what people have to say. Let's see. Miami Hollywood was big, multi-use facility with the drag strip, oval track, road course, and the sportatorium. Yes, it absolutely was. It should not. Nowadays, I think about had it survived, it would be gone now. There's just no way. There's just, I don't know, billions of dollars of investment on that land, I'm sure. But it could have gone another 20 years. In my opinion, a lot of boomers being nostalgic over everything. I'm way younger fan, so my nostalgia is more for the 2000, but racing today is more competitive than it has ever been. Yeah, that's the thing about nostalgia. There's a couple of cliches about it, right? I had never felt it until recently, and it comes from, death, getting closer to that. Everybody knows that your lifespan is limited. Everybody knows it, whether you want to acknowledge it. Right. The things that remind you of when you were young and strong and the world was new and all of that, those are the things. Nostalgia. Yeah, man, remember that? The first time that when we did something and as you get older, your life becomes a little more regimented because you got all these bills to pay and you got kids and things. And it's just you long for the way things used to be. It's the way it is. We got to fight that, man. There's a lot of good stuff going on in the world right now. There's bad stuff, but there's a lot of good stuff going on in the world right now. Things that are better than they've ever been ever before. It just all depends what you like. Bring back the OCIR strips and sauce and you'll fill the stands. Well, yeah, OCIR, right. A drag strip right in the middle of the birthplace of the hot rodding culture. Like, how do you do that? Right in the middle of all those people. Think of the California gold rush. Everybody went out there. They moved the baseball teams out there. It took baseball teams out of New York City and put them there in Los Angeles, and everybody wanted to be a part of it. It was an amazing thing and an amazing time in our amazing country's history. And they built a drag strip. Perfect timing. Brian just posted something about Lions and how it was a commission that we got some land. Well, let's the kids use the drag strip, this Lions club. Yeah, let's let them build a drag strip. Lions. Right? That stuff doesn't happen anymore. You got to do it in the middle of nowhere, which I believe that, you think of road and street course racing in IndyCar and Formula One, where they convert a metropolitan area into a facility for 2 or 3 days. I think that is something that needs to be explored because, every track has got to be in the middle of nowhere. And I can tell you that I talk to people and they're, I got to drive 20 minutes. They want to be close. And OCIR and Lions and those places seemed like, from what I can tell, I wasn't there, I never saw them, relatively close. And the people like Richard Shute and Gary Nastasi who tell me these stories, Mike English, all these guys who tell me stories about what it was like and how great it was, that there were these tracks and there was a scene and it was a social scene because there were people nearby. How do you get that secret sauce back? Where the people are nearby and can come participate in the sport that we all love. kind of tough. As a fan, I enjoy less fans, more room, visit fans. Yeah, like the South Park episode of the social distancing, right? Yes, there are some things that are better, that are definitely better, where there's less people vying for the same thing. Like, flying on planes. I haven't flown back there and coach for a long time, right? But I'm about to get kicked back there. But we need a viable and successful business model. Ronnie, you're not going to be able to go there if we don't have a viable and successful business model. Mark, I think the video and computer games and the enormous media world have really damaged the wonder and excitement of drag racing. When drag racing was at its peak and its pinnacle, you had very few, cable TV did not exist. The mobile devices weren't even thought of. It was something to go out to your local drag strip and see these larger than life characters. Superheroes were only in comic books, but the larger than life characters that were Jungle Jim, Snake and Mongoose, Scarlets and Muldowney, with the friction that they had. Shirley was going to come out to your town. She was going to battle against the guys. It wasn't even acceptable for women to have a credit card back then without their husband signing off for them having a credit card. Yeah, little lady, I guess we'll let you have a credit card. All right. What kind of a world did we live in? And Shirley was going to come out there on behalf of the ladies and battle against Garlets, who told her to stay in the kitchen. Like, that was excitement during those times. How could you not go? How do we recapture that? And the answer is the world is different. The world is a different place, a better place. NHRA could do a lot more. Remember NHRA today with today's technology. What do you mean? Brian Loans is doing this all the time. Nitro Time Machine. Sorry. We should be able to see interviews and drag news and reports everywhere. We see NASCAR. Where with weekly and daily updates on different avenues. If it wasn't for WFO and Competition Plus, we couldn't hardly get any NHRA news. Well, actually, Paul, I think that's a good thing for WFO. That's why I did this. Like, I did this over 10 years ago after a stint at XM Satellite Radio on NASCAR Radio, realizing that niche programming for us, for drag racers, for you, well, not only was it viable, but it was desperately needed. Our personalities, the Gary Selzies and the Ron Capps and the John Forces, are every bit as cool and interesting as the NASCAR guys of the time, right? 2002 to 2000. I don't know if you guys know that XM Satellite Radio was scheduled to debut in September of 2001. And September 11th, the tax put them in a really bad spot, and the economy went in the tank, and they had to struggle to survive. And then they were able to get off the ground, and NASCAR radio was the thing. And there's a lot of people that still they only subscribe to Sirius XM for NASCAR radio so that they could hear those shows, and be connected to the sport that they love. Our sport should have that too. And so for a while, audio only, the WFO radio podcasts, we were the only ones. And now there's many, because the technology, and we've grown, and people have jumped on and they want to put their own spin on it. And that's great. That's exactly what should happen. But what do you want? You want to follow news of the NHRA? You follow NHRA on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you're getting the best stuff. Whenever before in history, just the other day, Josh Barzy and the Flintstone super mod, right? Or modified in super stock, C modified. We looked at the car, heard the story of the car, sat him in the car, heard the emotion of him being told by his grandfather that he would drive the car, sat in the car, told us as a little child he fell asleep in that seat, and then he fired up the car. What's better than that? Did you watch it? Have you seen it? It's right there waiting for you. It's just, maybe you didn't know. Maybe you didn't find it. We're retweeting. We're sharing the heck out of it. Brian Lone's working his butt off with these Nitro Time Machines. They're all there for you to watch. Subscribe to the NHRA's YouTube channel. You can watch everything. People like me going out and bracket racing myself, showing myself being pounded into the ground by Teslas. That never existed. Why do you want to go backwards? The good stuff isn't back there. The good stuff is ahead. Let's see. Here's one. But thank you, Paul. That's what we are trying to do. Auto Club Fontana closed until 2022. I don't know that that's the case. If that's the case, that's a bit of a bummer. We need to be fighting hard to reawaken now. People were fighting really hard to reawaken in the middle of the pandemic, which was a very bad mistake. They lost their credibility. Yeah, we need to just open everything up when you have people dying left and right. People we know in our lives. I know a whole bunch of people who had the thing and didn't tell anybody because they didn't feel comfortable telling people because they didn't want to get harassed. Reinhart says no one will shame people for wearing a mask. Oh, yes, they will. Yes, they will. I've had many conversations with people who have been shamed for wearing a mask when the time was right. Take that off. Like, think about what we just went through, people. But now it's time, according to the numbers, to get aggressive about opening back up. Hey, Joe, I'm tuning in very late. I didn't get a chance to come on and rant. Yeah, Jerron, who calls me yesterday and is like, kind of planted some seeds on some of this stuff that we're talking about. He wants to rant too. I told him not to do it. Don't do it, Jerron. Stick to painting, Jerron. No, I'm kidding. Whenever you want, brother. These are the good old days. They're the only days. They're the only days. There's 560,000 people that don't get to enjoy whatever is happening today, plus countless others from various other things that have happened. Are you going to complain, or are you going to do your best that you can do to make it better? There's an event in your town. Like, let's see. When's the next event? Epping, New Hampshire. That's right. All right, folks. Who's going to show up to that awesome event? We're going to have 330 mile per hour top fuel dragsters. We're all going to be together. It's in a beautiful part of the country. You can get a lobster roll. The bisque is out of this world. Who's going to go? How far will you drive? How much will you invest? Who will you bring to come out to that? I saw Billy Meyer with a good program. Buy a ticket, give a ticket. Something like that. That is where we are at now. All these young people that don't even know what the heck drag racing is. What are you going to do to get them interested in it? Your niece has a kid and you got to buy the kid a gift. What are you going to buy him? What are you going to buy him? You going to buy him a transformer? No. Buy him something drag racing related. Buy him something from NHRA, some sort of licensed merchandise. Get that stuff. Go to the WFO store and check out what we've got on Amazon. You know why? The good days are now. Cool picture, Joe. Thank you. On the topic of Florida tracks, do you have any thoughts on more Orlando Speed World races? I say yes. I've loved Orlando Speed World. The big rumor that it's going to be the only quarter-mile track south of Orlando in a certain amount of time is troubling me. And they've got Sprawl coming their way too. Ozzy saved that place. Like, if Ozzy didn't save that place, where would it be? You got to support your local track now. So I would love for them to say, I think they've got a pretty good schedule at Orlando. World Tour Stammer Nationals has been a hit. They got a couple of big hit races. Kurt. Hi, Joe. It's Kurt. I really enjoy and appreciate all what you and Alan do. You're misspelling Alan's name. Don't do it in front of him. He'll be very upset. Alan. I thank you guys. I'm a hardcore drag racing fan and bracket racer. My home track is the home of the first NHRA national event, 1955, at the SRCA Drag Strip, Great Bend, Kansas. They've just completely redone the track and the timing system, and all new, all concrete surface done to national event specs. I'd appreciate it if you check out the SRCA Drag Strip website and see all the improvements and videos. It would be great if. Well, I appreciate you doing that. Why don't you put it in the comment section and then everybody could see it? Let's see. If the SRCA drag ship is working very hard to bring a lot of it back. Joe Castello, see my previous comment. Yeah, man, I got it. Put the link in the chat, man. We'll all check it out. It will be great. Let's see. I would look at F1 social media for ideas. NHRA social media, just look at F1's YouTube and Twitter. I'm looking at F1's YouTube and Twitter. I like Formula One. It's very difficult to compare us to Formula One because Formula One has a worldwide television contract worth billions of dollars. It is the second most popular sport on the planet behind soccer. And they have the near endless budget. So they can do a lot more, not to mention they only have, 20 some odd drivers and cars and some odd teams. And so they're all in the same place at the same time. It's just a different type of thing. And I'm part of it. I'm biased, obviously, because I work in and around NHRA social media. Given the resources, the best bang for the buck that anyone's getting in social media, period. Because Nikki, who is in charge of it all, handles it all, is doing a great job. We do as much as we can do in little breaks in the action to cover the sportsman racer. Certainly, we would do as much as we could do. We're doing as much as we can do. We're wide open, in fact. And I don't know. I think she's doing a great job. But yeah, more people out there covering stories, personalities, all of that stuff would be, you got to scale. You got to scale it. But I enjoy what Formula One. Look at what Formula One's doing with their Netflix show, which I don't watch. I haven't watched it. I don't have Netflix. I'm years behind. Yes, it's a bad stat. Get me. At least I've seen Forrest Gump now. But the best stories of the NHRA are still going untold. The best stories, the behind the scenes stuff. The Tony Stewart drives a Top Fuel thing. Have you guys watched that? The views had like 120,000 views or something. I felt that was low. Where are all the drag racing fans? Don't you want to see Tony Stewart drive Leah Pruitt's Top Fuel dragster? Don't you want to see? Yeah, I haven't seen it. Now, me, I have an excuse. I wanted to binge watch. And I watched multiple episodes right before Kyle Larson came on. Let's see what he says. SRCA Drag Strip is working very hard to bring, yes. Does a good job. I enjoy his Nitro Time Machine. Yeah, Brian does an awesome job. The guy's full of passion. Alan Reinhart, full of passion. But, you got to have more. Like, people got to accept the passion. They got to be into it. Can't be thinking, yeah, man, but 1988, look. Right here. Where is it? Never mind. 1986 was the year that I was in the Pro Stock Winner Circle. This was a great drag race, by the way. It was great. But if I'm looking back at 13 years old as the greatest time of my life, there's a problem. That's a problem. There's more good times to be had, folks. Go have some. Blake, I already have tickets for Norwalk. I'm bringing 2 friends with me. Way to go, Blake. That's exactly right. Like this guy, Blake, out here. You guys don't know Blake. Blake's awesome, right? You can't tell someone like Blake that the stuff that happened 20 years ago was better because Blake is loving everything. He's a young person, right? What is he, 17, 18, something like that. You gonna argue with him about what he's seeing isn't as good as what you saw? There's a lot of people doing that. The only difference was back when drag racing started, there was nobody to tell you how great it was previously because it was brand new. A lot of the problems in drag racing are caused by drag racers. I don't know how I got on this. It was Jerron's fault, just so you all know. Jerron. I take my nephews and nieces to the drag races and racing gifts. Do it. That's what you got to do. Is Pro Mod going to Epping? NHRA.com. Check it out. I don't think so, but there you go. Pro Stock, Power Wheels, Stardom Young. Exactly. And you'll see the difference between the drag race kid and the regular kid. And I think the drag race kid's going to win every time. Driven, determined. What's up, Keelan? How you doing? Blake, my dad started bringing me to drag races when I was 2 years old. I love NHRA. Exactly. Drag racing. It's an amazing sport. The drivers cater to the kids, and they love it. My daughter knows drag racing for what it is, not what it was, and she and I both love it. Exactly. The good times are now. I got a column in the National Dragster this month, the one with the 4-wide that I just got. I got my May National Dragster on the first day of June, which I don't know, man. The mail guy is reading it for free or something. I don't know. But I got a column in there called Let's Go. If you ever liked this sport, now is the time to show it, to go, to support, to sponsor, to be involved, to travel, to buy tickets. Post-pandemic world. Look at the numbers, personal responsibility. Just like Alan says, you can get face coverings where you still need these, by the way. $10. We're blowing them out now. They're just $10. You get free WFO stickers with it too, right there on the website. Now is the time. This sitting around and, drag racing back in the day was great. Yeah, you were younger and stronger. You had a lot more energy. Now you're older. It's a little tougher. It's tougher for me. I feel it. Now I get it. Can't read. All right, everybody. Appreciate Alan Reinhart. Hung around a little long. on this particular episode because we were talking about stuff. I don't even know what we said. The archive is loaded. You could hear Kyle Larson talk about winning. You could hear Matt Hartford. He's in there. We've had great guests recently on WFO, and we got Robert Height tomorrow. So there you go. All right, everybody. See you next time right here on WFO Radio. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, listeners. Archive is loaded. Hit it.